All right, looks like we're going live. Yay,
Woo!
hooray for us. Welcome everyone to our Daily Success Call. It is Friday, the 6th of May, 2022. John Lavetia here with you. And being that it is the first Friday of the month, not only is it fun Friday, it's formal Friday. There's that, huh? Look at this.
Okay.
This is for you, Maggie. I dressed to impress. Yeah.
God, I left all my dressy stuff back in my storage.
Oh, right. Are you residing right now in a really huge hibiscus flower? Is that what that is? Hibiscus?
Yeah, I'm a fairy or a bee.
Wow.
Had enough?
There you go.
Okay,
Oh,
say hello to
Pat,
everybody.
who's that with you, Pat? Who's your friend?
That's Nutmeg.
Nutmeg, that's cute.
He's,
Fine nutmeg.
he
Good
followed
times.
my granddaughter home from school when he was about 6 months old.
Oh,
Followed her
so
for 3 days at a distance, and then he finally came up to the porch, and we put a picture out, but nobody claimed him. So we've had him now for almost 18 years.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah,
Wow.
he's adorable.
There's that.
Oh.
Very good.
Yeah.
Good to see you,
Her
nutmeg.
people in the kitchen.
Yep, time to get some of that food. Good times, everyone. Anybody else with a dog or cat or a joke? Susan, if you will. Let's get Susan unmuted here.
I love doing these jokes,
All right, good.
even if they're not funny. Okay. What kind of cake ruins your sex life?
Oh, I don't know.
Wedding cake.
Ooh.
Oh, that's bad.
Oh, that's good. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Okay.
Now we know.
Next.
Thank you. Good times. Anybody else with a dog, cat, goose, frog, joke? Nothing? Intimate
My
crowd
dog's
here
sleeping.
today. Only 14 of us.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's up
Yeah.
with
Okay.
that?
So anyway, welcome everyone. We've got I don't have a big serious topic to talk with you about today. I just had a really breakthrough conversation with my mastermind group, and maybe I'll carry some of that over here. But the wanted to talk. I guess I'll talk with you a little bit today about advancing in your business and in life, and not only the intention, but also the motivation to do so. Which obviously you're all engaged in, right? You signed up for this course. You've got some attention anyway on doing, and having more in terms of your own business results, financial results, and creating that freedom and flexibility that we've talked about before, right? So there's 3 categories which I've looked at. One is obviously money, right? So financial freedom. The other is time. So having more control over what you're actually doing with this limited amount of days, weeks, months, hours, right, years that you've been given here. And the third consideration would be location, right? Location freedom. So did somebody just go into a microphone?
That's
you,
me.
Maggie?
Good location, but no good place to work.
Got it. Okay, good. You know what? On a tangent, since you just brought that up, I was walking down the street and saw a business, or maybe a nonprofit organization or whatever it is, but it was like a free workspace thing. I don't know, kind of like a community center, but you can just show up there and they got a coffee pod and internet access and bring your laptop or whatever. I don't know. Does that exist in your area?
Free's good. There's
Yeah.
different ones. Some of them, you have to pay for, but they do have, just the coffee shop thing you can do, but they have maker spaces at the libraries. If anybody has time to learn how to do things like 3D printing and that kind of stuff. Yeah. I mean, you just have to find them.
Got it.
Yeah,
Right.
they
Well, I
got a
found
senior. They got a
Mhm.
senior center in our town. They take donations. They don't charge anything. They provide a lunch, but everything's by donation.
Yeah. That's
Wow.
nice.
See this? I'm learning. I didn't even know such places existed until I walked past one. I was like, what is this?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We have a
I told-
really good one, and the gym membership, it used to be right by my house, but it's like just over $100. It's
Mhm.
nice. And they have all the classes and everything, you know.
Right. Right. Well, this place I took note of because it had a playground for the kids.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like a community, bring your kids and, do your work and whatever. So,
Yeah.
so interesting possibilities there. But back to the idea of location freedom and time freedom and money freedom. If that's the intent, right, and you're doing something to fulfill those intentions, well, then first of all, I applaud you, right, because there's a lot of people who would just settle into a zone of familiarity. I don't want to say comfort zone because it may not be comfortable, but the idea that good is the enemy of great. So if you're surviving at a certain level, and we could call that, whatever's good enough, right? Here's your pittance, for having shown up and done your work. But if that's unsatisfactory, says you, well, great. Then let's reach higher. But a lot of times, what I have found, and I'm sure Scott's got some thoughts on this, a lot of times what I have found is that we won't reach higher, not with resolve, not with like full force, if we don't believe that we actually can achieve this higher level. And Scott certainly brought up some things on that from time to time. So we don't reach for what we don't think we can get. So the idea of willingness to reach, to act, to perform, to go above what you've done before, a lot of times I think we hold ourselves back. Number one, by not being clear on what we could actually get, right? Not knowing that we can, and secondly, by not having a plan to do so. So, and let's look at it this way: if you're here because Rachel's got a plan. And you didn't have one, so you just bought a plan, let's say. So now we could take that excuse out. Although you still got to work the plan. I mean, it's these methods which already existed before you showed up. They're valid, workable methods, but different people have different experiences by applying those methods. So it really comes down to you as the individual who's operating the enterprise, to get really clear on what are you here to achieve, and then to provide enough evidence for yourself to seek it out, to find it, that you can, right? I know, excuse me, I'm not motivated to do anything I don't believe I can actually do.
Yeah.
So when I see Maggie succeed, right, that inspires me, right?
I'm struggling.
Yeah. So when I see Susan, right, demonstrate some great result, that inspires me to reach higher. Oh, maybe there is a light at the end of the tunnel, right? Maybe there is, for me, an opportunity to advance in business and life and what have you. So I think to that end, if we just look around the room here, and we got an intimate crowd here today, only 20 of us so far. And if you're seeing this on YouTube, I'll include you in this as well. But if we look around the room and we can find, and hopefully we can, right? We can find, well, you know what, this person's victorious in this area. Scott, who I know rather well, is he's quite a scholar, right? He's a thinker, right? He's got great perspectives, right? And Maggie has great, houses in the flowers, and and we could come up with things that not only that we admire in others, as something that they possess, but that we could also consider, because we admire them, well, what aspect of that could I assimilate and bring into my own repertoire, right? My own approach. I hope that maybe you could find something, good and right or inspirational about, this John Lavinia guy. It's like, okay, well, thank you, right? So if there's, as the messenger, right, if I've inspired you to study more, right, to dig into some books, to develop yourself, at least as much as you develop your business, because I think you're the most important piece in all this, right? So if I've given you the impetus or the motivation to do so, well, then I guess I've done my job, right? Whether knowing it or not. I mean, here's the thing: we go through life, and people are looking, whether you know it or not, right? And it could be your kids, right? Well, you know they're looking. But what example are you setting for other people? What are you demonstrating in your daily life? Is it a constant battle for survival? Is that it? Well, that's not terribly inspirational.
Yeah.
But if you're reaching higher, you know, in terms of like what Abraham Maslow called the hierarchy of needs, right? You got bare bones basics at the bottom: food, water, shelter, whatever. And then higher up you go, meaning and, you know, contribution and self-actualization ultimately. So there are higher levels of surviving than just, you know, rat looking for cheese and, you know, here's my cheese. Arguably, you're all more conscious than a rat, right? Arguably.
You never know.
Right.
Yeah, well, most days.
Right. So then I guess here's the inventory that you could take, I suppose. Take inventory in your community, in your environment, right? This is pretty good for relationships too, right? So here's your spouse, your kids, whoever you're surrounding yourself with, right? What do you admire or like, or, you know, where could they be your role model in some area? I'll tell you right now, my wife, who many of you have never met, but Shannon is my role model in terms of being gracious. She's very gracious. That's the word that comes up for me. And that means, you know, patient with the foibles of others, right? She's not taking stuff too seriously. She'll give you a pass, right? She's patient. She's gracious, right? Me, not so much, right? So she's my role model in that area. Okay. Now she's not my role model when it comes to organizing her desk. No. I should be her role model, right? At this point, I don't know that I am, but anyway, so it's not like I'm looking for a messiah or something, but I've got, you know, an example here, compartmentalized. Here's this person; they're really good at that. Can I assimilate some of that? Sure. I mean, where did any of you come up with your personalities? Were you the first person on the planet to have a personality? No, right? So you've assimilated stuff from things that you admired, or things that you saw were stronger, more valuable, or winning, right? Here's this person who's winning in some area. Now, in some cases, you weren't conscious of doing this. In many cases, right? You were the child. Here's the parent or authority figure or teacher or grandpa or whoever, and they are winning in life, or they're at least an authority in general in life, right? And therefore, you should be more like them. So we assimilate stuff. Okay. So you could take inventory deliberately and see, you know, who is in your assessment. I'm not saying you're right, but in your assessment, who is better than you are at some character trait or some, you know, skill or whatever. And can you assimilate that? Can you let that be a target for you, or instructive in some way that you could do more of that? Okay. And then you also have to take inventory of yourself, because as many people as you can see have strengths and weaknesses. Okay. But as many strengths as you can identify in other people, they can also identify them in you. So here is, let's say right now we got 23 people in the room. So you could have 23 different, and we have new people here too. I'm not saying you need to know every single person, although you keep hanging around here, you probably will. But, you know, here's Allie, who I just met. Hi, Allie. And I know that she's in England, by the way, and she's brilliant. Okay. She's smart cookie right there. Okay. So, all right. Well, how do you get to be smart like Allie? Well, you study, you observe life, you learn stuff, right? You make efforts to succeed, and you learn from the wins and the losses, right? You learn. Okay, cool. So I could do that, right? So we're kind of inventing some of this, right? Because I don't know. I just met Allie today, but we're inventing some of this. But if there was any assumptions to be made, we'll let them be good ones then. Let me assume the best about you, Pat, Susan, Scott. Let me assume the best, right? And so we come up with an ideal, right? And what did Earl Nightingale say? The definition of success, right, itself is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. a worthy ideal. It doesn't mean it's the truth. Okay. It's an ideal, and it's the progressive realization of that. So now looking around the room and saying, well, here's 25 people now. Here's 25 different strengths, assumed or real, accurate, kind of accurate, whatever. Well, here's 25 people looking at you now who can identify some sort of a strength that you have. Now, to me, that sounds terribly validating, right? I mean, the flow goes both ways. If we can do that for anybody, well, then anybody can do it for us. So let's just assume right now, Maggie, I'm just going to lean on you again.
Oh God, that's okay.
Yeah. All right. So let's assume right now that 26 people are looking at you and thinking, Maggie is really, what do I get from Maggie? She's so lighthearted. She's like a lighthearted person. I could be more lighthearted. That's a strength. That's a strength, right? I mean, here you are, you're dealing with, the workspace, and, you're traveling and the stuff's in storage and blah, 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 right? And yet here you are, happy as a clam, sitting in your, your hibiscus flower, man. I mean, that's cool. I probably, right?
What other choice do you have sometimes, I mean, you can choose
no,
to be happy.
Look, I've got a choice.
Yeah.
I've got
No,
a
I'm
choice.
just
I could sit
saying.
around and I could pout.
Yeah.
I could be miserable. I could choose. And I've chosen that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
Well,
very
people like
easily
Maggie.
distracted.
Okay.
So
Right.
even with my friends for fun, if I'm not feeling, great, I just have to talk to people, and not be by myself. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So you're also a networker then. I could do more of that. I mean, that's something, it's not just what you know, it's who you know, right? So here's
Yeah.
Maggie out there, meeting other, earthlings and stuff. That's cool. So
Not that much. Oh God.
all right. So have I made a point? Hopefully. Pat, you've got your hand up. Let's get Pat out here because I'm sure she's got some wisdom to share with us. Hi, Pat.
Hi. I just wanted to comment about what you said about educating ourselves through books. I've read all the books that you recommended, and I love to read. I've always been a reader, but it's been very informative, going into all these different people and how they approach, the sort of philosophical side of business, and I as a role model, I have my daughter-in-law who is the most loving, caring person I have ever met in my life. She takes care of me. She takes care of my son. And I've never heard a complaint at her. She's lived with me since 2005.
That's nice.
And I always say we only had one argument in all those years, and I was wrong. I don't admit to her that I was the one that was wrong. But she's an inspiration to me. But the business, I've been working long hours on it because I don't have anything else to do most of the time. But I talked to my son, who is agoraphobic, and since COVID, he's just locked himself up in his room, basically. He hardly ever comes out. And I told him, I said, I need help. And finally, the other day, he came out and he helped me with some of the paperwork kind of things. I had the designs and he launched them on Gearbubble for me. So the business has been a positive aspect in the house. And my daughter-in-law says she's thinking maybe she'll design jewelry. She used to do that years ago. And we'll have that to put up, it'll be original jewelry, so that'll be nice. So the business is having an impact on more than me.
Thank you, Pat. Good times. So the whole agoraphobia thing, and for those who are vague on the definition, is the fear of crowded spaces or leaving your house, and comes from the agora in Delos, Greece, which is the forum, the place of the marketplace, and the meeting space. So afraid of being out there in public, right? One thing that I think anyone who's in sales can and should do is go visit busy places with lots of people and just look. You go to a bus station or something, just look at the people, right? Makes it less scary. Scott, what's up, brother?
Morning, John. Morning, everyone. Thank you for your kind words, John. This brings to mind so many aspects. Because you're talking about looking at others as role models and extracting exemplary behavior from them, and yet it calls to mind the thing that sort of tends to recur in my thoughts a lot, is that if you want to see who you really are, or what you really believe about yourself, all you really need to look at is your environment, because what you tend to find is that your environment will very much reflect the limitations and expansion of your own self-concept. And if you really work on building your self-image and your self-concept of what is possible, it very much goes against the psychology of humans, who are basically herd animals. We like to conform with a herd mentality to reduce conflict, to get along. But in doing so, we totally limit ourselves. We contain ourselves. So if you expand yourself in any way, shape, or form, you are bound to come into conflict. You're bound to create friction with others. If only with those who say, "Oh no, you can't do it because you've never done this before," or whatever, or it doesn't work, or there's some aspect of this reality that doesn't correspond to what they see as who and what you are. And that's the thing. Your self-concept will always be confirmed by the people, and certainly the people around you. So if you're going to expand your self-concept, that's the only way you're going to get ahead, then you're going to come in conflict with other people. Sometimes you're going to have to leave them behind. That happens.
Yeah.
And not just in a metaphorical sense. I mean, this is often, say, with divorces and so forth, one person may grow in so many ways, and yet the other one is contained within their own bubble of what life means. And one just grows beyond the other, to the point where either you contain yourself within the perceptions of the other person, or you break away. And if you don't grow, you die. So some people are happy to live a life of basically living death, and other people want to expand beyond that and see what life has. I mean, I think we all still live within the bubble of our self-concept. The question, how big is that bubble going to be? Is it going to be as big as a toenail, or is it going to be as big as a universe? And the bigger your self-concept, the more you're going to come into contact with people. They're going to label you, a radical, a crazy person, all sorts of things. They'll label you in whatever ways they can to contain you within their perception of what is possible. I mean, you do it yourself as well. You'll find the biggest thing we have to deal with here is self-doubt. And self-doubt is basically the borders of our own self-image pressing in on us. And often that's confirmed by the people and environment around us. So either you have to shut your mouth and do it without anyone knowing. I mean, this is what a lot of people say. If you want to get ahead, don't tell other people, don't tell other people your goals, don't share your goals, don't share your dreams, because chances are 98% of people will not be in support of you. And then most of them will try and contain you. And I think there is wisdom in that. And they say, don't tell them you're going to do it, just do it. But even then, you're just putting off the inevitable, because sooner or later, their self-image, which could be very limited, is going to come in contact with yours. And so the stronger your self-image and the more you assert it and the bigger it becomes, the more you'll find others who don't share that image will move away from you. They will move out, in fact, move out of your life. No, that's what I find time and time again. And I think another thing too, that comes to my mind is there's mention made by a scientist. I can't remember his name now. He's quite popular. He's saying that your self-image is formed in the first 7 years or whatever of your life. And the reason he puts that time frame on is because that's when the human mind is very much in a theta state, basically a state where the conscious mind is silent and basically absorbs everything. But after that, the conscious mind then basically, to my understanding, starts to reflect in the herd mentality and basically does what the herd mentality does. It confirms a certain self-image, and that basically contains us for the rest of our lives. So we have to really, if we want to change our lives and change our success, we have to basically get ourselves into a similar sort of theta or a very calm mental state and change that programming. And I think once we start going there, that's when we'll see our self-image expand. And then William James' principle of the will to do springs from the knowledge that we can do. If we expand the concept of what we can do, then we'll want more, but we'll never want more than what we, as you said before, we'll never want more than what we can honestly believe we can reach, we can touch. There's no point now reaching for a summit on a hilltop if you honestly don't believe you can ever get there. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means that is the self-concept. The herd mentality and your own mentality have sort of agreed that is your reality. So you can't step beyond. I mean, in the old days, the idea of what a woman can do or what a person of a particular color or race or religion could do, all these things, and still are, to many people's mind, are containment fields for the self-image. And the people who've shied away from those and gone beyond them have come into a lot of conflict. And yet it's because of them that slowly other perceptions of what's possible have changed. But the herd mentality, I think, is something to go against, absolutely. But that's the only way you move forward. I mean, Jordan Peterson puts it very nicely. He says you've got to be an absolute, a horrible, horrible person first, and basically don't give a stuff what anyone thinks or feels, and then from that wild spirit, learn to contain it in such a way that you don't conflict with other people too much. But if you don't do that, if you don't be an absolute, basically an arsehole to begin with, you won't achieve anything. You won't have any drive because you'd be too contained and too worried about what other people think. I mean, that's the extreme version, but I think there's some substance to that in the sense that you don't want to be contained by your society, but you now obviously need to conform for the sake of getting along to some degree. But the upper echelons of possibilities, there are people who you will never get along with them because they really are horrible. And yet by coincidence, they achieve a lot of things. But a lot of people don't. They screw up their families. They wreck their lives in so many ways. So they've got the balance, a little bit out of balance. But the principle, I think, still applies of totally disregarding what society says, because society will always contain you. And if you are contained, you will never, never achieve your potential, ever. Anyway, that's a few thoughts.
Well, there it is. Thank you, Scott. That was not as lighthearted as what we may have heard from Ben. We were just talking about finding something to admire in people. All right, good. There's the contrast, everybody. Scott, I just got to honor you. You're here at 3:15 in the morning, man. Like, wow.
It's killing me.
Yeah. All right. Let's hear from Shaq, and then we got Pat. Hey, Shaq, what's up, man?
Nothing much, John. Just life, man. How are you today?
Good.
Good to see you. This topic right here is like pretty cool. Like this idea of sort of emulating the qualities of others that you would like to see in yourself, because sometimes we may feel we fall short in certain areas, and we would like to see improvements in those areas, but at times we may not believe that we can achieve certain things. And so what really helps is sort of using like items of power or totems even, or even clothing, like a sort of costume. Like, say if I felt like I suck in business, right? Excuse me. A thing that I could do is probably start to dress like John. I could put on a tie and a shirt and put on glasses and sort of almost like pretend I'm John, because I want to see those qualities played out by me. And the reason that's powerful is, and like not like a form of pretending, like, even though it's not a bad thing to pretend, I feel like we kind of lose that in adulthood as we're striving towards things, is this ability to pretend and tap into your imagination, because it's an incredibly powerful thing to do, and it's where all physical and tangible things are born within the realm of imagination. So being able to tap into a place within yourself to that is more resourceful in that it leads you to the different parts of your personality. Because a thing that John was talking about is that none of us really originates the completeness of our personality. Like, we're all influenced by the authorities in our lives and also our peers. We take on the traits and characteristics of others without even trying, like just by spending enough time with those people or around them, or absorbing their energy through osmosis. And so being able to consciously pick who you want to be is a very powerful tool. I have this concept of choose your character. I used to play this game called Super Smash Brothers. I still play it when I have the chance, which is like never now. But when you get to the character screen to choose who you want to play as, there's a voice, or the announcer says, choose your character. And it's kind of like a thing like that every day, that you get to wake up and kind of choose your character. How are you going to show up today? And so, to be completely honest, I woke up feeling like shit today, in a horrible, ghastly mood, very negative. But I got up and was like, look, this could be true that I don't feel too great today. I feel kind of dark. But at the same time, I don't want that to be the case. I won't let this beat me. So I got up, did my, habits and routines of starting my day and stuff. And, I've got my head wrap on and stuff like that. I put on my watch and I feel more empowered in choosing who I am and like how I want to look and how I want to be today, because I kind of woke up and got like a random chocolate out of the box, and it was one of the nasty ones, and so a thing that exists is this concept called enclosed cognition. Enclosed cognition. Yeah, excuse me. God damn it. Enclosed cognition, which kind of refers to the stories that we attach to people when they wear certain clothes. And so, like I was mentioning earlier, John, you showed up in a suit and tie today. You look real, sharp and dapper and professional, right? A thing that we can do is kind of do that for ourselves, like I mentioned earlier, like having like a sort of totem or like a costume, like a power item. Like, say for me, I wear my necklace and stuff like that. It makes me feel good, you know what I mean? And it also it's made of hematite and some other stone I can't think of, which is good for your energy. And so, just stuff like that makes me feel more empowered rather than accepting what I was given on my platter today to start the day. And so the concept that I'm really trying to get into here, as far as modeling and emulating the traits of others that you admire, that you may see lacking in yourself, is this idea of sort of like creating alter egos, because our personalities are multifaceted. We don't have one solid personality that transcends all situations. Like, you kind of talk to your mom differently than you talk to your wife or husband or partner. And same way you talk to children differently than you may talk to like a judge or like, a police officer or something. Like we all have these, these different facets to our personality. So creating these egos or these alter egos. And I feel like even saying the word ego has a negative connotation, but honestly, it's a thing that you got to deal with. And your ego keeps you in that place of, you said, familiarity, John, because it likes to stick to the things that work and that haven't killed you yet, regardless of how well it's doing for you. And so being able to tap into these traits exhibited by the people that you admire, like in this interview that I watched with Todd Herman and Tom Bilyeu, which was amazing. Todd was talking about how when he gets home from work, he's sort of still in that killer state of like getting his job done and being Todd at work, the guy who brings the bread home and does what he does. But when he gets home, he over years he's realized that personality, it doesn't do too well at home. And so a thing that he does is he taps into his grandma. Like he tries to emulate traits of his grandma because she was so warm and loving. And that's become like a part of his personality. Like it's a star that he can call upon to give him energy. And so in a similar way, like, shoot, talking to you enough, eventually I can probably start to try and emulate you, John, or try to emulate Rachel, or like try to tap into your personality traits to try and bring them out in myself so that I can kick some ass. And so, as far as believing in yourself and like, at times, we may not do that or think that we can do certain things, which is why we may not reach for the stars. A thing that we can do that's useful. And this is why these calls are so great, is because as you got on, John, like everyone that you talked about, you brought up something positive about them. You said that they're smart cookies and they're great people. And like, regardless of their rebuttals of saying, oh, whatever, like being able to ride your picture of us or belief in us is a powerful tool rather than using our own, because that may only take us so far. So like if you told me, hey, Shaq, man, you're really smart and you're, blah, blah, and you're a great speaker and you're handsome and stuff like that. Like if I didn't feel that way today, just you saying that, I can ride that energy to like make it more true or to believe in it a little bit more and reach a little bit higher. Like, like in boxing, like a lot of times, like a fighter is really riding the energy of their corner man and his belief in their ability to stop getting their butt kicked. You know what I mean? So like that's really, really powerful to some, to sometimes to put your like feelings and belief aside and use the feelings and beliefs of others in you, or even to use the feelings and belief of heroes that you may want to emulate. Like if Eddie was on the call, he'd be talking about superheroes, right? So like, if we're able to like think of ourselves as Batman, as Superman, as Goku, as like some kind of hero, just even for a moment while we're going through some trials and tribulations or just, general resistance, just believing for a second that you are Superman or that you're John, or like Rachel can like pull you through rather than taking a look at yourself as the person who hasn't achieved any big business accomplishments or anything. Like doing that, being able to pretend for a moment is kind of like the essence of like fake it until you make it. And so it can be a really powerful and useful thing to implement. And with that, I'm gonna shut up.
Awesome stuff. Thank you, Shaq. And yeah, you've gotten a bit of notoriety here in the community from all the stuff you've shared. right? So you guys, what do you, those of you who know Shaq, right? What's a strength that you could identify there and assimilate? Good stuff. Hey, we're coming up on the top of the hour. We'll just take a couple quick, Pat and then Scott, and then I think we're going to wrap up.
Okay, I just, when you were talking about, finding your own self, when I was growing up, I was considered a rebel, but I wasn't a rebel that acted out. It was like the opposite. My mother wanted me to go get my hair permed and, all this stuff. She wanted me to get contact lenses. And that wasn't me. And I went my own way with what I wanted to study, what I wanted to do. And I guess I was in my 20s when my mother she said, I just realized something. She said, I spent all your life trying to get you to expand, to understand who you were and all the possibilities. And she said that I just realized you always knew who you were, and it had nothing to do, with me or your father. You knew who you were, and you weren't going to let us, pull you into something that wasn't you. And the other thing I got from my mother, she had a philosophy that she encouraged, us to adopt, which was, if you haven't come in conflict, serious conflict with some person or some group in the year, you have to question whether you've done anything that's worth doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you've done something worth doing, as Scott said, people are gonna, come out and be against you and argue with you. And some of them can become, they just won't deal with you anymore. And, I have my generation of women, the career counseling we had in high school, the boys were given stuff on engineering and, all of this great stuff that they could do. The girls were nursing, being a secretary, or being a bookkeeper. And that was the only things, that were considered suitable, for women. And while I said I wanted to be a math major, my mother wouldn't pay for my education if I majored in math. So I left school for a year and I put myself through. And when I got married in second half of my sophomore year, and my husband was in his junior year, so I worked so he could finish. Then he worked and put me through. But it was very, very, different time. And I was a rebel. My cousins all knew me as a rebel because they all conformed, to the line. I wouldn't do it. It wasn't me. Still isn't me. I think I've been to the only time I've been to the beauty parlor in the last 15 years, other than for a basic haircut, was the day before my granddaughter's wedding. I just, my mother, oh, well, you want to look pretty. I said, any man that doesn't want me the way I am doesn't have to take me. That's all. Nothing to do with it. That's it.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you for sharing your experience. We've got so many people with so many great experiences here and perspectives. Thank you so much. Scott, you've got the last word today.
Thank you, sir. I won't be too long. Shaquille mentioned something very interesting, the idea of energy transfer, and that certainly does occur with the people around you. But what you find if you don't have a strong self-concept, or particularly self-esteem, you'll find that others will drain you of energy to fill their gap in self-esteem. So it's the idea of the Dementors from Harry Potter. To me, it has so many parallels. People with low self-esteem are like Dementors. They have a hole in their heart and they try and suck it from anyone and everyone they can to fill that hole, and it will never be filled by anyone else externally. Even if they destroy the other person, which they will do, they'll go from one dead body to another. That's what people with very low self-esteem are like. They will suck and drain anything from anyone to try and fill that void, but it will never fill the gap, even though they'll leave a trail of dead lives around them. I've seen that happen in the worst case scenario with narcissism, where people have such low self-esteem they can never fill that gap, and they leave failed relationships and destroyed children in their wake. That's a normal thing. That's why, some people suggest if you have that sort of situation, it's like if you have a relationship with someone who's on drugs, drop them and run, because there's just no way. And that I've actually said that to a friend of mine whose girl, this is many years ago, his girlfriend was on drugs. And he said, what should I do? Should I stay with her? And I said, well, how bad is it? It was pretty bad, She's asking for money. I said, drop her, run. Otherwise, you're going to be drawn into that world. You're going to be drawn into that life, and there'll be nothing for you. And it was tough love advice. I don't know if you followed it or not. And maybe in retrospect, I don't know if I'd say the same thing now, but certainly people with low self-esteem, you can't build them up. You can't do that, because they have to find their own place of value. And until they do, they will suck you in and take everything from you until you're dead and gone and your life is finished and you have nothing to show for it. That's what happens. So that's why you have to build your self-esteem. Number one, I think that's absolutely essential. And only if you do that, then you have a buffer against the judgments and the herd mentality of other people, which try and contain you. I think that to me is so important. That's why with a lot of these groups, say, there's some groups that talk about the law of assumption and so forth. One thing they always say is you've got to work on your self-esteem. Before you work on your goal or that special person or whatever it is you want to achieve, self-esteem, work on yourself. And I think time and time again, that principle is very profound and true. You've got to work on yourself first. Otherwise, you can be manipulated and contained by anyone and everyone around you. People who you think are confident, but they're not. They're actually energy vampires who make you feel special because it serves their needs to do so. And because you have low self-esteem, you can be easily manipulated. The stronger your self-esteem, the less you can be manipulated and the less you can be fooled and tricked and cajoled into doing things that are not in your best interests. So I think that's a very important thing. And also too, sorry, I'm just going on a bit. Shaquille mentioned the concept of, I think you mentioned it, John, reaching for the stars. I think when you have enough self-concept, enough perception of your own inner divine intrinsic value, you don't reach for stars anymore. You start playing with them. That's a totally different mindset. The people who really succeed don't reach for things anymore because their universe, they play with these things like toys. They're not something they reach for anymore. They choose which one they want. They don't have to reach for anything. That's what your self-concept does. It expands your universe to such a point. The things you would reach for before just become marbles you play with. And that's the mindset you have to have in order to succeed. And then when you have that mindset, your universe may be very different, but at least you won't be arrogant because you won't see yourself as being superior. You'll just be seeing yourself as being incredibly lucky to be able to have that perception. No, that's enough for me.
Thank you, Scott. When's the book coming out?
I just wanted to add very quickly to, what Scott said about ego. My bringing up in a religious sense was very, very varied, from Pentecostal to Orthodox Catholic. And, but through it all was this idea that you had to give and serve and serve. And I remember standing up in a group, I don't know whether it was a Bible study or something, when they were saying, Jesus taught us to serve, he served. I said, yes, but he also said, love others as you love yourself. Not more than, but as. you love yourself. You have to love yourself first before you can wholeheartedly give to somebody else.
Thank you, Pat. Yeah, you can't give what you don't got, right? So, you know what? I'm going to ask you guys for something now. See the email address I just put in the chat? Go ahead and click on that. If you would send me an email telling me what you've gotten out of these sessions. Like, I want to hear your experience with this. So, and I know it wasn't like the technical, mastery of internet, e-commerce or whatever, but like, what does this do for you? These sessions, if you would give me some feedback on this, I'd appreciate that. All right. So I think, and I'm just checking the chat here. Wow, Sonia, thank you for sharing. All right. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up. We're like way past the top of the hour. I hope you guys had a great week. We're going to have a great weekend, aren't we? Yeah. We'll see you back here next time. Good. All right.
Happy
You guys have a
Mother's
great
Day
day.
to the moms.
Yeah. Oh, and happy Mother's
Mother's
Day, everybody. Yeah. Thank you for that reminder, Susan. Yeah, we need
You're welcome.
reminders. All right. Good stuff.